Your hosts are Jared and Jason, and you have arrived at the one and only after party. Crown winner of last week goes to Caber, $25 financial gift. God bless you, and thank you so very much. Congratulations. Second place goes to a tie. It was a $5 financial gift from both Rory and Irish Eyes. Thank you both, and congratulations as well. You may financially gift over the course of the stream in the usual places. Look down into the description. And Jared and I, as you all know, we share the financial gifts here on the after party. Now, today we have the inimitable Sarah Dye and Karissa with us, and they're going to be talking about all things spring and Hearth and Helm. Is very exciting. We'll pass it over to Sarah to introduce herself, and then to Karissa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us back on the show. It's so good to see both of you again, and we're very excited to chat about all things spring. My name is Sarah, and I am a wife and mother, homeschooler, farmer, gardener, homesteader, gal living in southern Indiana, and I've been on the show a few times before, and my friend Karissa and I started a project a couple of years ago, which you mentioned, called Hearth and Helm, and that is a podcast and blog and a channel that we run on Telegram and some other platforms.
Karissa.
Hi, my name's Karissa. As Sarah said, we do Hearth and Helm together. I'm a wife, mother, dabble in homesteading, herbs, all of that fun stuff. We just are trying to revive folk vitality and uniting our people.
Yes, well, we will start the conversation. I'm sure anyone who's been with me and Jason for a little bit knows these two ladies. They're great friends of the show, and we always enjoy talking to them. As we were saying before the show, it always feels like when we do one of these again, it's like, man, it's been too long since the last time we spoke. It's always a pleasure. And they are two, if you don't know them, if you're a little new around here, they are both shining examples of this homesteading lifestyle and getting back to nature and crafts and raising families in a very holistic, balanced way. So if that means anything to you, definitely keep your ears perked up and also check out the past episodes where either or both of them have been on. So if I think I remember correctly, Karissa was the last we'd spoken to. She was able to say hello for a little bit on the after party anniversary show about maybe 5 weeks ago at this point in late February. And Karissa, you had mentioned, I think you were doing it was the charming of the plow, right? That weekend?
Correct.
And then you were mentioning, you could maybe tell us how the rest of that went. And then you were just mentioning that both you and Sarah here had a lot of plans to revitalize Hearth and Helm, the show that you do together. And we're just all ears. I guess we could just, whatever subjects come up, we'll just pepper in questions or keep an eye on the chat questions. But how you both are preparing for spring and your families. And well, not to give you too much at first, I guess we'll focus on Hearth and Helm first. So what the plans are for your show.
Well, we took a little bit of a unintended hiatus last year. Just I had a baby that year or last year, and Sarah had a lot of stuff going on, and we did do a few episodes, but just this year it was like, okay, we got to get back on the horse and start putting stuff out there because we do enjoy doing it, and we just made it kind of a mission to ensure that we made the commitment to doing one episode a month, and I think we've done really well sticking to that, and we have a lot of exciting guests lined up for the future. We just did a really great episode, and yeah, we just have a lot of exciting things. We are trying to put out like nature scavenger hunts for homeschooling, even pagan families as well. We're just I put out a lot of recipes lately, just a lot of the things that are just going on with the seasons, and yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the scavenger hunt that Karissa just mentioned. We started off the new year in January producing some downloadable PDF nature scavenger hunts, which there are a couple of runes on the scavenger hunts. However, they could certainly be used by people who are, in our movement who aren't necessarily pagan or working with runes. They're mostly things just, that you see in nature. So different plants and herbs, and they are regionally specific. So Karissa, being in the Appalachian mountain area, produced one that was relevant to her region, and I produced one that was relevant to the Midwest. We are hoping to expand on that project and touch on the other regions of the United States in the next few months, and we will be producing some springtime scavenger hunts as well. Hopefully we'll have those ready in just a couple more weeks. And as Karissa said, we kind of took an unintended hiatus last year. We weren't really putting out a whole lot of content or blog posts or podcasts. In many ways, it felt like it was difficult to make the time. From a personal standpoint, I would also say that, to be honest, the lawsuit that I was involved in, I kind of looking back, reflecting back now, I realized it was kind of bogging me down. Kind of just spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. And while I don't really want to spend time discussing that on tonight's show, I do want to say that even though we lost our case this year, the case is closed. We lost our case. The judge granted favor to the city. That is, as I said, for an entire other conversation at some point in time. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that there are silver linings to everything, and one of the many silver linings to this situation is that my husband and I kind of have closure now, I guess. And with that finalizing itself, I have felt just a huge surge of new energy and inspiration to, as Karissa said, revitalize and revamp our Hearth and Helm project and lots of other fun projects in my personal life too. So good news, comes along with the bad. It's all how we look at things and how we choose to handle the things that come our way in life. So yeah, we're excited about Hearth and Helm. As Karissa said, we've had a couple of great shows already this year with fantastic guests who have wise words and inspiration to offer. And in the upcoming few months, we've already got several other great guests coming on, got people getting scheduled, and we're sticking to the routine, and it feels good. Yeah, feels good to be back.
Well, we're glad to hear that, and definitely the right perspective to have on what you said about learning from everything and letting it energize you and give you that forward momentum no matter what the aspects of it that you couldn't necessarily control. Before we go on, just for anyone, again, who might be a little bit new, a quick overview of Hearth and Helm. Like if you had a website, what would the hashtags be, the subjects that you talk about? And then once you say that, maybe both of you could tell us a little bit more about the guests you've had on recently, and then what you're planning to do in the coming months.
Sure. Do you want to take the hashtag question, Karissa? You coined a really cute one.
So we coined the hashtag make crunchy moms great again, just because for a while that kind of turned into a lefty sphere, and we're kind of trying to revitalize that a little bit. But I would say that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry
to interrupt you, but just for anybody who's listening who might not know what crunchy means, do you want to tell them?
Yeah, it was a term that I don't know how old it is or anything, but like crunchy, generally you have a more holistic primal approach to motherhood. You turn to more, medicinal medicines, you make certain healthcare decisions when it comes to your children. You have a gentler approach, a more in tune with nature type of approach to things. And, like generally you're a home birth mom and stuff like that. And
I'm not a home birth mom though. I'm still crunchy, but I'm not a home birth mom. But I do support home birth, and that is something that absolutely is something that we hashtag on the show as well.
True.
And also, Karissa, I wanted to just jump into, if you eat granola and you want to use cloth diapers on your baby, then you might be a crunchy mom.
Right. And I've actually
never anything. like
Go
anything,
ahead.
maybe you don't check every box, but if you check enough boxes, I mean,
Right.
this is a subject that's a bit near and dear to me. Not that I can call myself a crunchy mom, but it's something that's come up. Jason and I have spoken about in different iterations, and we spoke about this recently, Jason, maybe a couple of episodes ago, but it just seems like there's a realignment, a shakeup of a lot of people's assumptions about certain lifestyles and approaches to life and health, like you're saying, that seem to be like minted in the public mind as being owned by these other spheres. And I just am not into that at all. It's, no one's saying because you are interested in a holistic lifestyle or, natural foods, all kinds of things like that, that you then have to take on this whole checklist of other things, which include political views and worldviews that are antithetical to a whole host of things, but including the health of our own people. So that, we could even wax philosophical about that. I don't know if either of you are in the mood for that kind of quick detour, but if either of you had any thoughts on that, kind of just as a broader topic, I would love to hear. Or we could just continue with kind of the goings on of Hearth and Helm.
Well, I do think it's awesome that more of our people are kind of reclaiming a lot of these things that the left has kind of dug into. For a while, a lot of that stuff was more of a left-leaning type of philosophy or outlook on life, and it's now definitely that the tides are turning with that. And I think that's a really great thing that it's something that people are trying to reclaim and quote unquote make it great again. And it's just interesting how the tides do turn like that, because when you do look at a lot of people on the opposite sides, they're pro, a lot of the mandates going on, they're pro-mask, a lot of that stuff. And 10, 20 years ago, it was the other way around. So I think it's interesting how that's taking place.
Interestingly, they're very pro-government and kind of the narrative and not questioning things. Like that's what I observed. But what were you going to say, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that going back even further, Karissa and we have talked about this a lot, so I know that she would agree. The whole like living holistically and being like ecologically minded, deep ecology, these things like preserving nature and living healthily, eating healthy foods. I mean, this is very ancestral. And so, like, I love the Make Crunchy Moms Great Again hashtag that Karissa coined, because it's so cute. It's a meme and it's funny, but it makes a much deeper point. And that is that all of these things that we're talking about are not new to our folk at all. And it goes back to the dawning of time. And, in the West is where we see places like, conservation efforts of nature and national parks and wilderness preservation and these types of things that we can go and visit and enjoy. And this is an example of how this has always been with us. And there may have been like a little blip in time in the recent decades when the left or anti-whites or whatever these group of people kind of adopted it and tried to use it for their own political motives or whatever. But it's very much ancestral and it's nothing new. And that's kind of why we also have the kind of secondary phrase of our project is reviving folk vitality, because it is a revival of something that was always there.
Yep, that's very well said. And maybe a good segue to continue then on what that looks like for the two of you. So maybe we can continue for a moment with the types of people you've been talking to and the themes. You said you've had some shows you enjoyed recently, and then maybe you could tell us about what's coming up.
Sure. Karissa, you want to go?
Yeah. So we just released an episode, I believe it was yesterday, with Mark Pierre of the Norna Society, just relating back to a lot of the ancient European religion, and just gave a lot of really great insight on that. It tied into fatherhood as well, and just a lot of wise words there, and something that definitely everybody can listen to. But I do think it was a really great episode for male listeners that we might have as well. And before that, we had a gal on small scale homesteading. Preferably, we focused a lot on meat rabbits, but also just trying to encourage people that they can start a homestead. And she gave a really great, inspiring story on starting off really small, and where she has a fairly decent homestead going now with meat rabbits and a garden. And it was something just really get people inspired to do. And then before that, we had a really great episode that I really enjoyed. Was it was on the topic of being intentional and the importance of it, and we just touched upon a lot of areas on that, just with a lot of current things, being intentional in your homeschool and your day-to-day life. And yeah,
kind of like if I may, Karissa, like the
Mm-hmm.
just like slowing down. I think that episode, our guest on that episode had a lot of great points and inspiration about
Mm-hmm.
just kind of slowing down and taking, trying to take time out of each day to, like you said, be intentional, whether that means making sure that you sit down for your meals together as a family instead of everybody eating at different times and, being scattered, or, in her homeschooling, and that this particular guest uses poetry a lot in her homeschooling, and just things like that. Yeah, it was a really great episode as well. And we did also touch on the very controversial subject of vaccines quite heavily on the second half of that episode as well. So if people are interested in that, definitely go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you streaming to these days?
Well, we are uploading. We are still on YouTube, which is miraculous to me. I thought that we would be removed a long time ago, so that's fun. We're still putting episodes up on YouTube. We also have a BitChute channel, which admittedly we have not uploaded as consistently as we would like to that platform. We are also now uploading audio only to our Telegram channel. So if folks want to just listen to the audio, they can find that there.
Yeah, does that I forget, does that archive on Telegram, or is it just for listening live?
It's archived, and then we can pin the posts, so people can go through the pinned posts to find the past show's audio.
Right. Okay. And then what about upcoming plans for Hearth and Helm?
Well, another little fun phrase that kind of came to us organically when we first launched the project was the kitchen that never sleeps. And that is because Karissa and I are very heavily and deeply involved with cooking from scratch day and night. That's something that we have a passion for, something that we love, using ancestral recipes and methods of preparing foods so that they're more digestible and more nourishing. And so there's always something going in our kitchen, whether it's fermenting sauerkraut or soaking sourdough bread, which Karissa is an expert at. All of her sourdough stuff is amazing. If you're interested in that, go check it out. And because of this, also came to us the idea of creating a cookbook. And that was put on the back burner for quite a while, but we have just recently been kind of coming back to that project, and we are collaborating with another awesome mom friend of ours, and we're going to be working towards producing that cookbook and hopefully have it available by Yule Christmas time. So there's that project, which is exciting.
That is a nice development. I didn't know about that, and makes perfect sense. And again, you're seeing more, everyone kind of playing their role. I know that the Golden One's wife, Julia, we would say Julia here in the States, but they're Swedish, so it's Julia. She recently put out, if you follow her on Instagram, a kind of ancestral cookbook herself. So you're seeing all kinds of things like this, and it again kind of goes to something that was on my mind as you've been speaking. Is it relates to what we were talking about a moment ago? Is like, do you see any like a growing hunger? I'll go with the food theme for this kind of content, and people curious about this. And are there any examples even of maybe someone who stumbled across you who maybe wasn't quite aware of the whole picture of what you present, is like might have been a little outside of these spheres that we move in, or is it?
Yeah.
I know it's kind of tough to
Oh,
sometimes
absolutely. Well, absolutely. I mean, I
sound
would
that way.
say too. I'm sorry.
Oh, just saying for others to find, like
Oh,
sometimes we're kind of siloed because of the way that social media, doesn't spread our stuff around.
I think sometimes with some of the stuff that we put out can be a bit of a uplifting type thing that takes you a little bit away from the, so to speak, the black pill, or sometimes the doom and gloom of everything that can come with being, truth seekers and awoken to the things that we are, because we do focus a lot on, like ancestral health and cooking and bringing back traditional crafts and ancestral traditions. And I think it is something that that just kind of gives people a little bit of a break from. I'm sorry, there's like a helicopter going by. I hope it's not super loud. I think it gives people a little bit of a break from just kind of a lot of the content that can come out in our spheres, which isn't bad, but there's only so many times you can hear a lot of the same messages of things without it kind of getting to you. And I remember when a lot of this stuff was happening in 2020, we did an episode, I think it was just, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just like in times of chaos, we bake bread, and it was a whole episode on sourdough, which was, I thought, like a really great episode to do just during that, because everybody was probably expecting our hot take on what was going on. And it was just more like, no, we're going to bake bread. We're going to keep doing our things, and we're going to keep persevering forward.
Yes, you
that
bake
was,
bread. I'll write songs. I know you have to
yeah.
keep living your life and doing what you love. I agree. And I keep hearing about this sourdough. I have to say, I saw a picture of Karissa's sourdough stuffing, or we talked about it around Thanksgiving, and I'm still jonesing for that. I did not forget Karissa. It looked delicious, and I'm reminded all over again with you talking about it. But what
I've
were
been
you
trying.
were about to say something? Mhm.
I think I lost you guys there for a second. Karissa, were you speaking just now, or am
Go
I
ahead.
interrupting someone?
No,
Okay.
you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to piggyback too off of what Karissa was saying as far as posting like wholesome content, and that is the primary focus of the project for sure. But we also are not. We also do not shy away from the political stuff either, and I mean, personally, I find it nearly impossible to ignore, and I know that probably everyone else here agrees. So we do post politics, like, just so folks are aware, we will post about political things. We're unapologetically pro-white, and personally, I really believe in kind of a hybrid of like, yeah, kind of the retreating away and living the wholesome life, but also staying active. And so we support, activists as well, and we like to stay up to date on like some of the political parties that are forming, and what No White Guilt is doing, and we like to stay plugged in. Occasionally, we have to unplug, and we'll take breaks and we'll do that, but we're kind of a blend, I guess. We're a blend of, we are essentially kind of just putting forth authentically who we are. And that is kind of, some of us are kind of eclectic, eccentric, it's a mix. So there's going to be a little dash of politics. We might have a blog post about how to make violet syrup. We also might have a blog post about activism, or, literature, pro-white literature, things like this, history, controversial historical topics, things like that. So that's, just kind of who we are. And I think that I had talked about this when you guys had us on last summer, which was like why we started it. And part of the reason is that both Karissa and I have been doxxed viciously by anti-whites. And, we're targeted when, just as mothers with babies, have received death threats and all of these things. And for a while, when that was occurring with me selling at the farmers market, I had news crews coming to essentially put cameras in my face like every Saturday for the duration of farmers market, week after week after week, being plastered on the front page of a newspaper. And, at some point, I guess it was kind of like, well, if you're going to be doing that to me, then maybe I will just start my own show. Like, maybe, let us go ahead and put ourselves out there to tell the truth about who we are, instead of letting anti-whites and our enemies make up stories about us, So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you said something to the effect of they put a mic in my face anyway, so I might as well take a platform, like take the mic away from them and say what I want to say.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm pretty
something
sure I
like
remember
that.
you
Yeah.
saying something. Saying something to that effect. And yeah, there's an expansion, I think, in all directions. It's I think it's just kind of the zeitgeist of what we're living in, because on the one hand, you both are doing this very traditional lifestyle, as you've been discussing, and there's definitely a hunger for that. Many, many more people are interested in that and turning to that, and are dissatisfied with some of the current modes of living. But at the same time, it's not a one or the other kind of deal, because there's an extension of technology and how people are connected as well. And when I thought about it and get a little idealistic, I mean, I think there's a way to blend the two. I mean, the fact that we can be connected via these communications, using the internet, computers, and tablets and phones, it might mean that increasingly, we've already seen plenty of this, and it might continue going that way, that people will have more independence in terms of their work, maybe not having to do these long commutes into cities anymore, and not have to physically be in offices if they do that kind of work. And you could see people that are in fields that aren't even related to what you're doing, where maybe one or even both of the parents work somewhat, doing things on computers, and things that maybe used to be office jobs are actually able to live more in the country, and in their time when they're not working, have the kind of lifestyle that you're talking about. So it's using the technology to then give you the flexibility to live on a little homestead and have chickens and rabbits and grow your own food, and be present with your children more. As you were saying, as much as there's a lot of doom and gloom people focus on, there's ways to arrange this that there could be a silver lining in some of it, if you kind of bounce the two things, the traditional and the technology, off of each other, balance them the right way.
Yeah, it's important to have a
Absolutely.
balance with everything, for sure. And I think that we kind of strive to do that. Like I had said, I think we try to put out the wholesome stuff, but we also, people know where we stand, and like Sarah said, we're unapologetically pro-right, and we make sure that that's made clear as well.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it shouldn't even be a thing, right? It shouldn't be a thing to not hate your own heritage and have to profess this hatred of it, to be able to raise your children to appreciate where they come from and talk about the particular flavor of your ancestry, like any people on earth do and should do. And it's not a mutually exclusive thing. We all know it doesn't mean that you hate other people. It might even give you a much deeper appreciation of other people when you're well rooted in who you are. That shouldn't even be a thing. No one should have to explain that or defend that, or it even be this political stance or lifestyle. But we've lived through and are currently living in this order and agenda where if you go one step in that direction, it becomes this calling card or this identity. It calls attention to itself. Just the fact that you're not anti-white, which just throws light on the fact of how backwards things are and how imbalanced things are right now. In a more sane world, you would be two moms just talking about raising your kids and natural lifestyles, and it would be a given that part of the deal is that they're going to get this positive imagery of and lessons about their people and where they come from, and all the different everything that the holistic swirl that makes up culture, all the food and the ways of approaching nature and the crafts and 1,001 other things. But no one would have to even say like, oh, it's white positive. It's just silly sometimes to me. I don't know what any of you think, but it's just sometimes I kind of take a step out of all this and just think that, like, this is just normal. Like, it shouldn't even need that extra layer, that extra explanation of it's white positive. It's just that it's the contrast of what else is out there.
Right.
Exactly.
Everything we do is in line with nature, and nature always triumphs. I mean, they can kind of keep trying to pump out the anti-white rhetoric, but I think in the end, nature will always triumph over all.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned earlier, Jared, was I think you were asking if we had received any feedback from kind of newcomers to all of this, or something to that extent, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, yes,
And
please. Go
yeah,
on with that.
yeah, and so I guess for me, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I will continue posting kind of a wide range of content, in addition to like the homesteading and gardening and natural parenting stuff, because I do feel like it's all connected and it's all related. And we have received letters from people who would say something like, hey, I really like your content. I've been following you for a while, but hey, I saw that post you recently made, and I just want you to know, like, I'm not racist. And so of course, our response is, well, let's have a conversation about the word racist, and the anti-white slur racist, right? And so we have had at least a handful of people who were brave enough to reach out and start those conversations. And that, I think, is probably a tiny glimpse at a larger group of, probably like mostly women, but maybe men too, who maybe aren't quite there yet, and feeling like they're courageous enough to put their name on a letter to us. But wouldn't you say, Karissa, we've received quite a few letters of people who expressed in one way or another that they were kind of grateful for what we were doing, and that they were kind of a little bit too shy to speak out in their local communities or online yet, but we're grateful to see other moms that they could relate to who were kind of talking about these things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What kinds of things would you post that would trigger someone to have to say to you, oh, wait, I'm not racist?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is in, I believe, was it the summer of 2020, which we all know.
I think we're thinking of the same thing. That was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we all know what happened for months and months and months on end. The absolute terror on the massive scale of terrorism that was conducted by anti-whites throughout our entire country, which has been pretty much memory hold, as we could expect in an anti-white system. That I think we had made a few very outspoken posts calling all of that out, and so I would say that was kind of my first memory, Karissa. I don't know if you'd agree, but
Well, yeah.
receiving a few letters of.
Don't you remember when it was? I think everybody changed their little picture, did their virtue signaling of changing their picture to black. We did white, and basically said that we stood with white solidarity. And
Yeah.
remember, all the anti-whites attacked us, saying that they were going to make sure we got taken off, and they were going to make sure all of our pages got deleted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then we did get, like you said, some stuff from people that were like, well, I'm not sure about this, though. I mean, I like what you're putting out, but I can't be considered racist and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a sign. That's a sign of being infected with anti-whitism, and it's this automatic disclaimer. And the reason why is because people live under this anti-white narrative. That's the thing that we realize here in Service to White Wellbeing, is that we have to contend with ourselves, having grown up and been infected inside the anti-white narrative, where normal and moral is anti-white, and where not only abnormal but immoral is that which contravenes, upsets, undermines anti-white objectives. And so when people come to us, then when they say, I'm not this anti-white slur, what they're saying to you, wonderful ladies, is I'm sick with anti-whitism. And you will very often see, folks, the ones who are most adamant about that are conservative people who are otherwise white sympathetic, even if it's implicit. And they want all the things that the white race produces, that we produced in the past, our norms, our mores. They want all of these things. They advocate for those things, and they feel, because of the system we live under, that they have to announce that they're not immoral. They're not immoral. And they do that with this, I'm not racist. So yeah, going right, like you all are talking about wonderfully, going right to the heart of that right away and saying, look, this is an anti-white concept that has taught you to believe that it is immoral for white people to have well-being. And therefore, the inverse of that is white ill-being. And therefore, that is moral in this society. This is a sick society. You've adjusted to a sick society. So it's really something to hear that you all are putting on these wonderful shows. And you're talking about these other subjects in an environment that is not overtly anti. So you all would still be getting that if it was just because you weren't villainy signaling somehow that, oh, no, yes, it's traditional for white people, but rest assured, we hate white people too. You know, I mean, if you don't do that, then they're going to come in and say, I really like what you're doing, but you know what? I'm not a racist. So there's a lesson there. There's a lot more we don't have time to dig into, but there is a lesson there. And it's fabulous that you all are attracting folks who feel the need to say this, and then you're able to put them onto a right path in a white positive way, and they can be in an environment that is comfortable and inviting, and also what they expect in a normal, wholesome milieu, rather than what they've learned about those who care about the well-being of white people. As monsters, like trolls come out of the troglodytes, come wandering out. And that this is the troglodyte that cooks our wonderful bread for us. But no, it's these wonderful ladies here. So I'm really inspired by that.
Isn't it ironic that the venue for the situation Sarah was talking about, that she's been through with her family, was indeed a farmer's market? And you think about the irony of that, because who are the people that make farmers markets, and who are the people that vast majority of which go to things like farmers markets on the weekend and enjoy those things, and little crafts and little craft shows and people selling their wares? It's farmers markets.
What? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it's really. I mean, it's even. I've read that. Being nice is a sign of, racism or white supremacy or something like that. But, going back to when people do throw out the racist word, it's important to kind of challenge these people. And then, of course, it's a case-by-case basis in the sense of, do they know the origins of that word? Do they know who Leon Trotsky is and who he was and how he used it as a weapon against people and how it's gotten to the hold it has today? But it's also important, too, in certain contexts, to allow people to know that it doesn't bother you. That when you guys were talking about that, it reminded me of, speaking of, this is kind of where, when Sarah was talking about that hashtag Make Crunchy Moms Great Again, a situation that happened in the summertime with me. I was at the park with my kids, and there was just a group of moms there, and we were talking about different learning and parenting approaches, things like you have a lot of, Montessori or Waldorf, and I said, oh, I really like, I named out this book that was a Waldorf book, and it was the first time I had ever seen her there, and she goes, well, Waldorf is a racist, or only racists adopt the Waldorf approach to parenting. And I said, well, you can call me racist if you want. I'll shout it with you. I don't really care what you think about it. And she just kind of looked at me like, and some of my other friends, they really admired that I didn't, let it just be like, oh, no. I just was like, no, you're not going to try to bully me into saying something or backpedaling on my beliefs at all. And it's important to, stand by that as well, and not let that word hold as much value as it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
You were saying, Sarah?
Just agreeing and amplifying, essentially. Yeah, those words, as we all know, and as Jason does such a fantastic job of breaking them down into what they really are. I mean, as we know, they're nothing. They mean nothing. They're made up. They're slurs meant to, control. And the sooner that people start doing like Karissa said she did, which was just letting them bounce right off and land on the ground going splat where they belong, the better. So yeah, they're just tools used to manipulate and control. So we hope we can encourage other moms to feel courageous in that way as well.
Well, in the little bit we have left, and we'll keep an eye on the questions too, anything you want to talk about? I know we're talking a lot about Hearth and Helm, but you're personally doing in your family, like what preparing for spring looks like and opening up the house after having hunkered down for the cold months of winter and the growing season. What's coming up for either of you? Sarah, if you want to continue, since you were speaking, if you want to go first and let us know about any of that.
Absolutely. Well, we are putting in a garden, as we have done year after year for as many years as I can remember. And that is exciting. It is honestly a little overwhelming for me because I have had the absolute blessing of having my husband work from home for many years, and therefore him and I worked together to put the garden in each year. And unfortunately, due to just personal, career stuff that's going on right now in our lives, he has been just working long hours and has not been able to be available for that. And so it has really instilled an even deeper appreciation in me for having a man around, and something not to take for granted, for sure. Fortunately, our eldest son has been picking up a lot of slack and helping me, and of course my husband is helping as well whenever he can. But it's a big project. We've had a huge garden in years past, and honestly this year it's probably going to be a little bit smaller. We're planting a lot of potatoes, and essentially we're going to increase the amount of crops that we feel do best at our place, and probably kind of decrease some of the stuff that we've found is not worth growing over the years. So lots of tomatoes, lots of potatoes and peppers, lots of onions and shallots. All of those things, I've sowed some seeds, and we're getting the garden going, and the daffodils are blooming. My sons have been bringing me little daffodil bouquets almost every day, which is just absolutely precious. And we are all looking forward to wrapping up our homeschool year. March is kind of a tough month, to be honest, for I think the whole family. It's kind of like cabin fever has really set in. It's not quite warm enough yet outside for everybody to be outside all day long, and so we're kind of tired of being cooped up in the house, and people are getting kind of grumpy and agitated, and like we are ready for the sunshine and the warm winds and all of that. But yeah, wrapping up homeschool year. Hopefully we'll be finished by like the end of April. Baseball season is starting, so that's very fun, very exciting time for our family. And that's kind of what we're up to.
Yeah,
in our personal life.
And again, for anyone listening now or in replay, if you're interested in this kind of lifestyle or learning more about it, that's part of why these ladies do Hearth and Helm, so you can look into their resources and links and listen to their show if you want to start on this journey. I think it was both of you on last year. You went into a little more depth on one of the episodes of the After Party here about actually some practical tips about getting started. Before we hear from Karissa about family goings on in the spring, do either or both of you have any quick, if someone's listening, people who are young family or starting a family and are really interested in this lifestyle and don't really know where to start, do you have any quick list of resources of where someone could get started?
Yeah, as far as gardening and homeschooling and things like that, we have a blog on Subscribestar where there's a handful of posts that I think would be quite informative, that were written by either myself or Karissa. So people can certainly go there and check that out. And also we frequently post links to other people's content that is relevant to these things on our Telegram channel, which is also Hearth and Helm. And from those points, there are book recommendations contained within the blog posts and things like that as well.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of our earlier episodes too, we touched upon a lot of, I think episodes that would really kind of home in on maybe like the new mom or the younger, younger ladies that might just be starting off, a home and homemaking and everything as well. But it's hard off the top of my head. I can't think of many resources that you did not mention already, Sarah.
Jared, you're muted if you're talking, my good friend. Might have been speaking the whole time. But I think we were going to go over to Karissa, were we not? Was that what Jared wanted to do next?
I believe so. I can go ahead and just key in what we are up to at spring.
Yeah, sorry, I was giving room for that. Go ahead.
That's fine. Similar to Sarah, getting seed sowed and the garden going. I also really love spring too. I think it's a great time to do that spring cleaning and to kind of let go of things. I do like a capsule wardrobe. I get rid of stuff that I did not wear during the winter. I don't like to hold on to it. I like to get rid of it. I like to rearrange the house. I like to let the energy flow a little bit differently and just air out the house and just get that nice fresh air, a nice fresh start with everything. I like to bring in a lot of nice spring greenery into the house from outside and put out our, painted eggs and stuff like that, just really bring that essence of a rebirth and fertility and just the idea of spring and Astara and everything. So that's something I really look forward to with the changing of the season, especially with spring. It's just kind of this new hope after, a long winter. But we've got, we're getting some more chicks, which I don't know if my husband's listening to this, but hey, we're getting more chicks and he doesn't know about it. So
that's a very creative way to let your husband know that you're getting some more animals on the farm.
Well, a friend and I went in on some chicks from Murray, and so yeah, surprise. But
I wouldn't make any announcements that are more consequential than that, but maybe
I just want to. I'm going to say, if my husband's listening to this, I'm just going to let you know I'm bringing home a couple of hogs and some baby goats. I hope that's okay.
Well, also, I'm trying to find some beekeeping equipment as well. So surprise, we might be getting bees too. So that's something he's definitely not in favor of, just because it's bees. But I'm going to do it, man.
You're going all in.
Yeah, but
you want to eventually make honey, sell some honey.
Yeah, I'd like to. Honestly, when it comes to at least at the season of life I'm in right now, I'm happy with my chickens to get my eggs. I enjoy my chickens. They're great great for my kids to do as well. Like, they're low maintenance enough to where they can kind of help with those chores and get the eggs and get the fun experience of it. Growing our food. I'd love to get bees to harvest, the honey as well, of course, but also to make, I really am into beeswax, making beeswax candles and utilizing that. But down the road, my only other thing that I would ever want to add is a dairy cow for raw milk, because that's, something I really enjoy and I find very precious and everything. That's definitely, another season when maybe my oldest is a little bit older and we would be have a little bit more established on our land right now, but we definitely have the space for it. But bees are, they're low maintenance enough. I mean, the first year having them, my goal is just not to kill them and, hopefully in a year be able to, harvest honey and have some beeswax and all of that.
Nice.
Awesome. I was kidding about the hogs and the goats, just so everybody knows. We're not quite there yet. Actually, in the past, at one point in time, we had about 75 chickens and 10 sheep and about 6 or 7 goats on our little 3.5 acre homestead. But over the past, since 2019, actually, we have scaled way back. And so I miss having sheep and goats, but we do not have them anymore. We just have chickens and vegetable garden right now. And in the future, though, I would love to raise some hogs for our own pork and get back into goats, especially for the milk. So, but we're not quite ready for that yet. Again.
All right. Well, again, like we've been saying, these if you're interested in this, these two ladies are a great resource, and they have a blog. Because I'm sure it could be overwhelming when you hear all this at first. And I know, again, we hear from a lot of people who say, "Man, I want to." Maybe they don't say "man" like I do, but they say, "I want to." They say, "I want to start growing my own food, gardening, all kinds of things you're talking about, homeschooling." We've done other episodes for all of you who are curious that are more focused on homeschooling.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to begin. But this is why we have these conversations, because first of all, it's just pleasant and nice to speak to you. You kind, lovely ladies with your beautiful families. But it's about I guess it's why we all do this. We all learning together, and different people have different skill sets and talents and interests and lifestyles. But it's essentially about role modeling it, being role models for each other and learning from each other. And the both of you, when what you do separately and together, you're contributing in that way of being role models for this kind of approach. And so we love sharing it, and we hope that if just maybe a couple of people through us would discover you who maybe wouldn't have otherwise. We're very happy to do that.
Well, thanks. That is an absolutely very kind and a huge compliment, and honestly, kind of a difficult one to to accept, just because we all have things to work on, and to be called a role model is a huge honor, and it's just very nice of you to say that. And we're just people like you guys are, and like everybody else, and that's kind of what we want to do, is just say, hey, like, here's who we are, and this is what we're doing, and like, come on over, let's be friends, so thank you, Jared.
Yeah,
very
thank
nice
you for those kind words. I mean, we've had a lot of people to inspire us, from the past, and even now, and it is an honor to kind of be considered on that realm as well.
And on that note, folks, if you have any questions, financial gifts, get them in now, because we are in the final minutes of this glorious step with these wonderful ladies. And echoing what Jared George just said, if you're new to these wonderful ladies, make sure you check out their content. All of those who are familiar, please do share the work that they are doing, so that more and more ever widening circles, those concentric circles, when you toss the pebble in the pond, more and more of our brothers and sisters discover these wonderful ladies and the work that they're doing, and they find that there are these inviting, ordinary environments that match their sensibilities, and therefore these people will be able to come in and enjoy themselves, and they will lower this defense that they have been given over the course of their lives, that anybody who cares about the well-being of whites is fixated on some period in history, and they just want to hurt all the other races of mankind. They're afraid of that. And so that's not who and what we are. Our hearts are full of love. I'm going to get started here on what we have over on Entropy, and we're going to get a very big, raucous round of emojis for Hallendier, financially gifting $50 $50. Thank you so very much. Saying everything that needed to be said with those $50, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much. We also have Sonichu. Great to see you. Financially gifting $3. And Sonichu writes here, it is silly how in the Kelvin Pierce video, they blamed, I'm not going to say the name of that city because the ear is against the door. So they blamed a bombing on whiteness and not federal violence. I'm going to just pause right there. Sonichu, if you're going free, we don't ever use the term whiteness. It's an anti-white concept, and it degrades who and what we are. It has several meanings that undermine our well-being, and it's a tool of the anti-whites. If you use their terminology, you legitimize their ideology, and you accept all of the premises behind those words. You can never win there. Whiteness, by the way, is definitely not something that I do. I produce Western kind. People visiting VD clinics have a problem with whiteness. Going on, though, Sonichu says, it is sad that many people will be fooled by this. Well, you know what? There's a deeper issue there, and it's what I've been talking to for about 2 decades, and that is there is no way around the anti-whites. If you are going to in any way draw some sort of linkage to the villain in their story, there is no way that you can rehab that image. There is no way that you can re-educate the millions and millions of our brothers and sisters. So that means that any sort of linkage, and Pierce made the linkage salient with the tack that he took. And when you do that, you absolutely invite the anti-whites to be able to come in and say, this is what they do. This is what we've been teaching you they are for the totality of your life. And you're looking like them. And so the reality, you say it's sad that many people we can't have an excuse. The time is up for excuses. And it's not you personally, Sonichu. It's just in general. The time for excuses are over. It's not going to be good enough to say to our kids and their kids, well, we got a great excuse for why it's hell on earth. We have to succeed. And that means we've got to junk what doesn't work. And if that means that it's sentiments that are the problem and it's focuses that are the problem, then you have to focus on yourself. You got to become a new person. So it's not, in my mind, it's not sad that the anti-whites are able to do that, make these people out or define who the villain is in that story. To me, it's not sad. It's inevitable when you take that approach and when you put your focus in those places and when your heart is not full of love every single day, love, hope, and redemption for our people, but it's focused in enmity and this hyper focus on others. So that's what you're talking about there is a big lesson to be learned for a lot of folks. And I really appreciate you, the financial gift, and what you had to share there. Now we have also Rory, the great Rory, storied gentleman that this guy is, has so many connections to history in the UK, in the US, probably other places as well. We really like him. He calls in very often. $5 financial gift. Thank you, my dear brother. He writes here, and in the gravest of fonts, my wife and eldest daughter are in Staten Island right now at a memorial service for the groundhog known as Staten Island Steve. I had to remain in England to look after our dog. When will Jared be producing his song titled Burrowing is Not Enough? Jared, that's for you.
It's already in the can. It's already been done, but it's actually a producer's working on it. So legally, we have to just sign some paperwork until I can release it. That was a little after party going free inside joke. Sorry if anyone didn't get that.
Well, everyone has to be they have to be indoctrinated into the weirdness of the inside jokes. And the groundhog thing is a wonderful, but very real. Look into it. The groundhog deaths are very real. It's very peculiar. But nonetheless, we have come to the end of another wonderful tap with beautiful people, and who we want. Please support them both and support their families. That both of them, their husbands, their children. It's a struggle, and you have the anti-whites focused like laser beams on everybody who is normal, everybody who's ordinary, everybody who has the normal sentiments of Western kind. And they focus like laser beams on them because they know that where people have the normal sentiments of our people, that they have the ability, that there is the hope there for our brothers and sisters in the millions to come on over and to take a new tact in life, one where their lives don't have to be hated and come, and their line as well, come to an end for them to be moral. So let's start with Karissa, since we started with Sarah. Find out what your final thoughts are. Any thoughts on the financial gifts, or Hallandir's $50 financial gift? No words there needed. And what you'll be doing next and where folks can find you. Then we'll hop on over to Sarah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having us on, and just hanging with us and listening to everything that we had to say. People can the place where we are most active on is Telegram, with all of our content. But as we've said before, we have a YouTube and we do have a BitChute. We are on like Facebook and Instagram, but we're, like I said, Telegram's a place to find us. We have a subscribe star, and if there's anything Sarah wants to add in there.
Yeah, thank you so much to Hallandir for that very generous financial gift to TAP, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and honestly very revitalizing to be honest, to be back on the show and to have the opportunity to kind of talk about who we are and what we're doing. It's always nice to have that opportunity because it kind of re-solidifies and helps me stay focused on the things that are dear to me, and so I appreciate the opportunity to have come on, and you guys are always just so kind, and all of the TAP listeners and audience, thank you for tuning in, and it's been a pleasure, so thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you both so very much. Mr. George.
Yes, I'm just echoing what everyone has said. It's always a pleasure to speak with both of you. And you give us the updates on what you're doing. As I said before, you're role modeling something, and you're playing an important role for people, especially young women who are interested in these kinds of approaches and lifestyles and how to raise families. So it's a beautiful thing, and we send the best to your families. It was really good to check in. Always really nice to speak to both of you. And look forward to what's coming next.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderfully said. I'd like to absolutely have you both back at some point in the near future. Maybe I'd like to dive into a couple of the subjects that we touched upon tonight that would definitely need more time, maybe even their whole entire TAP episode. But one of them was tech and traditional ways, and blending that, because we can't be this. I guess we'll just say, for lack of a better word, just like this weirdo community where they go out and they live in huts, and they're just absolutely they refuse to be part of society. There've been plenty of these movements in the white sympathetic sphere over the years, and it turns people off. So listen, if you're brand new, you've never checked into anything white sympathetic before, or maybe you're kind of floating around and you're wondering if this will work for you. We are just like everybody else in your world. We're normal. We're loving. We use computers, cell phones, but we also love nature, and we love the environment. We love each other. We're proud of being Westmen, men, women, and children of Western kind. That's different. But otherwise, you're going to find the same sort of wholesome kitchen with these two ladies that you found perhaps with your grandmothers. And a lot of those ways are long gone, thanks to the infliction of anti-whitism and its corrosive effects on our lives. Yeah, please do stick around. Jared, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say what you were saying goes with this convergence of all these interests. There are people who are curious about this just for its own sake. And like we were speaking with Jerome a few weeks ago, there are many people out there with, I guess, what you might call tangential interests, or adjacent interests, or instincts on how they want to live their life. They just sense, I've spoken about this with myself. A lot of my early development was more aesthetic, or just kind of looking at things in the culture that seem to be breaking down, lowering standards. All of these things kind of swirl together. And so we have to be there and be, like Jason was saying, just whole people as best. No one's perfect, but just being actual people. There's all different types of people here. And that's what I meant about, it's just wonderful to share the different types of perspectives and the kind of perspectives Sarah and Karissa give. So yes, it's just a reminder that there's a tremendous realignment going on. It's something that we say all the time. I mean, not every episode, but a lot of the episodes, this seems to come up. So it's something we have to keep in mind. It's not this out there thing. There's all kinds of curiosities and instincts that are leading people to re-examine their assumptions about what they've been told in the mainstream, or what the best way to live their life is. And we have all kinds of people here like Chris and Sarah who could provide, as I keep saying, modeling for that. Oh, and I know I've sensed that I was kind of drawing that out for a reason, because you kind of have another thing to say. But you can't remember it. I just remembered it. Why I was dragging that out. There's someone named Grace who is listening. Hi, Grace. Was asking, and I should have done this. I was being a bad host. Is very curious. Like we've been saying all this about role modeling. Give us all of your links. There are people out there like Grace. I'm sure she's not the only one who want to know. You're like, man, where do I find all the things Karissa and Sarah are doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Hearth and Helm is the name all across all of our platforms. So if you were to go on Facebook, for instance, and type in Hearth and Helm, or on YouTube, Hearth and Helm, that will immediately bring up our stuff. Same with Twitter and Instagram. Telegram, there are underscores in between Hearth, the, and Helm. Subscribestar is, I believe, Hearth and Helm, or Hearth Helm. If you go to any of those platforms, you should be able to link to all of the other ones from any given platform, if that makes sense. Unless I'm forgetting anything, Karissa, that you wanted to add.
No, I can't think of anything. Like I said, Telegram's the place that we are most active on.
Yeah, and really quick too, with the Hearth and the Helm, part of the reason that we chose that name, it has a lot to do with kind of what we were talking about earlier, where the elements of kind of going forth, being at the helm of the wheel of a ship, as like a metaphor, going forth and exploring and being out there in the world, on one hand at the helm, and then at the hearth, which is kind of that cozy, comfy, quiet, more intimate, more private space that's reserved for special things in the home. So we have the hearth and the helm, and it's both of those elements that come together. It also is kind of reflective of the masculine and the feminine, and it also is kind of a metaphor for what we are doing, because yes, we're all about homesteading and being living wholesomely, but we also support the activism and going forth and being out there at the helm sometimes as well. So in case anyone was wondering, why Hearth and Helm? That's our names. Well, that's where you can find us, and that's what the name means.
If no one else, I actually really enjoyed hearing that, and it has some personal it actually has some personal significance. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you both so much, and thank you, Mr. George. A big thank you to everybody who participated in the show today. You had comments, you financially gifted. Of course, a big thank you to those who financially gifted. It's a wonderful time to be with you all. This is the time we do have to be pulling together, and this is the time also we have to be reaching out to our brothers and sisters out there. Forget about arguing with the anti-whites. They're going to be anti-white. Get to those who can hear what you have to say. Help them with the key concepts. Help them with other pieces of the lexicon that you can. And if they are interested and willing, help them to go free. And thereby we will change the world together, changing the world for all of our generations yet to come. Be the hero in the storybooks yet to be written by our people. I love you all. Hey, we'll see you back here on tap next time.